Morning, everyone. Happy Thursday to you. I remember today is our big news day. So let's review that first, actually. Let's refresh here. All right, so unemployment claims came in exactly as forecasted. Okay. Next up at 9:45, we have manufacturing and services PMI being announced, both high-impact news drivers. So those coming up about 15 minutes after the opening bill, 7 or 8 minutes. And then at 10, we have this medium impact news, existing home sales being announced. Also, Jackson Hole Symposium starts today, so it's an all-day event. Central bankers, finance ministers, academics, participants from around the world will be in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, discussing the future of global financials, I believe. Whenever they peek their head out the window and make a statement, it should react, is what they're saying. So we'll see what that brings us. But that's the news for today. So we already have one. We have another 9:45, one at 10. Symposium going on, and the opening bill just 6 or 7 minutes. It looks like already got a little bit of S&P here. Look at S&P. High of yesterday was here, so we've already taken the high. We look at Nasdaq. The high of yesterday was here. We've already taken that high. And then we move over to the Dow, and the high yesterday was here, and we have yet to take that high. And here's that same yellow area from Monday. The Dow has not left that area. It looks like it may want to now, but it's going to need to if it's going to take the high. So maybe the opening bell of one of the news events will let the Dow catch up. And so far, we do see the dollar not turning around just yet, but it doesn't look like it's in a hurry to go higher. So I'm hoping that it starts to push lower as we see higher prices on the indices. Sorry, my voice will wake up in a little bit. Looking for where we may have breakers before the open bell. So I drew this one up here. This came from the 8:30 event where price was higher and lower. But we did sweep liquidity, taking out this low here, going back to test this daily SIBI level that we traded above. I had this marked up because on the daily chart, this is a level that I'm looking for us to trade above and close above so we can invalidate the SIBI and the volume imbalance, and we can be a little bit more confident that we're going to see higher prices going forward. So that's why I'm at put up that breaker. We also had this 5-minute breaker here, right around 11 p.m. last night, and that's the bottom of the price range, which sent price higher. So we got that breaker, and oddly enough, where the manipulation lead traded into was this 1-minute breaker we had yesterday at 3 o'clock. So if you were on a session yesterday afternoon, we had this overall big breaker here where I looked at it and I said, okay, that's about 80 handles, so that's too much to trade. Let's try to find something a little bit smaller. And I was able to dip into the 1-minute time frame, and I found a smaller breaker within, and it was close to the consequent encroachment level as well as this gray area, which is the new day opening gap from Monday. So I felt like that was a good area to use, and you can see how it came back into play last night when another 5-minute break was being created just before 11 p.m. It traded into the 1-minute, and it's been on uptrend ever since. Let's get back to the 5-minute. So we have price trading back into this 5-minute breaker to the 9:30 opening bell. So we'll see what that means for the opening bell here. Let me also put a Fibonacci on this just to get a sense of the range. Okay. Thomas, LB, Miss Healthy. What's up? Okay, this lag with my voice. Okay, thank you for that, A. I've been working on it all week, and so far I have not cracked code, so I'll keep working on it. Sorry about that. Just bear with me. So we bumped up against the previous day high a couple times after traded above it, but immediately it was pushed lower. And so the third go at it. So we'll see if this previous day high is able to hold price, but I'm going to drop it because it hasn't traded above. All right, here's the opening bell. All right, there's 20 handles out of the breaker. 23. And there's 25. And there's 30. There's 30 handles out of the breaker. You blink, you missed it. It was 30 handles right there. Remember, the next news event is in 15 minutes. S&P and the Dow. Okay, so the Dow did take that level, previous day high. It's the only one lagging behind at the opening bell, but it has done that by now. So far, Nasdaq needs to catch up. The Dow and S&P both pushing higher. So we just need Nasdaq to catch up. Approachment right where it is right now. Oh, this range is the same area as the consequent approachment for the breaker. Still not in sync at the moment. We have the dollar and indices all four bullish at the moment. Be right back. I'm going to grab refill on my coffee. We do have news in 10 minutes. I'll be back before then. Hey, Queen, good morning. Dollar still moving forward. Have all the three indices retracing a bit, but still bullish with the exception of Nasdaq. S&P and the Dow are still quite bullish on the hour. We'll see if Nasdaq wants to deliver twice already. First go with the opening bell from the edge of the breaker here. It already delivered 32 handles. We got right to the 61.8% retracement. Touch right down on that. And then we saw price turn around, move the other direction now. Back above the breaker. If you took a consequent encroachment entry, you should have been about 20 handles up. Okay, what's up? 2 minutes before the news. the news. So still getting pushed upwards from the dollar. Dollar's higher prices at the moment. It's back into the hourly block there. I believe that was a 70% retracement. So we'll see if that's all they wanted or if it's going to continue to push lower. Looks like potentially we may only had one entry deliver on this breaker. All right, so now we have all the indices now. Bearish positions pushing lower. Dollar still pushing higher. Let's go and take a quick peek and see what happened with the news. All right, so it's these two items right here. So we were on manufacturing, we came in lower, 49.5. We came in at 48, and on services, forecast was 54. We came in at 55.2. So about the same variance for both, just opposite sides. So we'll see how that translates into the market. And remember, there's a medium impact news at 10, where it's new home sales. Two minutes before the macro. Hey Ray, morning. What's up? Swing to 830 lows. Okay, down at 937. All right, here's our macro. Let's get rid of this. Out here, looks like prices are going to push a little bit lower. We're still aiming higher on the dollar. So breaker would have been here on the bearish side. Confirmed at 938. Bearish breaker. About 5 handles away. All right, now there's a retest. Dollar looks very strong coming out of the news event. 5-minute breaker might come back into play. One from here, the bullish. Now we're getting some bullish activity here. We still have a strong dollar. It looks like it's going to continue this way all the way to the finish line of this hour. We'll see how the next hour prints. But so far, this hour has been heavily bullish for the dollar. About a mixed bag for the indices. So let me just jump more quickly and we'll take a look at all four together. So here's the dollar I was talking about. You see that hourly candle. Maybe it's running up and trying to balance up its wick here. So we'll see how it responds when it gets to about this level, 101.5. We did have that big run up from the Dow at the opening bell. Remember, I said that it did finally take the previous day high, so we didn't have S&T anymore. And towards around 9:45 or so, we started seeing a pullback there. You can see it traded down into the fair value gap here. It's rejecting there. Looks like it might find support, which would be good. S&P and Nasdaq still fighting to be bullish, but we'll see. We've got about a minute before it's closed. We'll see what the candle. But either way, it looks like it's going to be somewhere closer to center, whether it's bearish or bullish. See how it carries from there. But it looks like it's right at the previous day high. That's where it's struggling. We've seen in the last 15 minutes to have a bullish and a bearish breaker, and price kind of go in both directions. So based on what the dollar's doing, it looks like we should be bearish, but I am expecting the dollar to make a decision soon. So that might be why it hasn't really decided whether it wants to be bullish or bearish. It's just kind of hanging out, just buying some time before it can resume. All right, we've crossed over into 10 o'clock now. took the bearish breaker. You're 35 handles up. Close your low in 30 seconds, which would invalidate the bullish breaker. And there's that level rate, the 830 low you were talking about. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at it in 1 minute. I need to look at it on the 5 minute. Okay, let's take a look at, we did have a 10 o'clock news event. Let's see what happened with the existing home sales. All right, basically the same as forecasted. 3.95 million versus 3.94. So, same. Oh, big drop there. All right, so we'll get rid of this bullish breaker. So now invalidate. 650. The bullish breaker that sent price higher this morning. Well, last night around, I guess it was formed around 11 p.m. Price traded out of it at 12:30. Back in at 2. It's the last turns. And this is on the 5-minute. We drop to the 5 minutes. You can see that. So this was 2-candle pullback used for the breaker. In this case, Muhammad, the other side of the breaker. But it really depends on your risk threshold, like many how many handles you're willing to risk. But typically, the other side of the breaker. But Muhammad, you really need to back test this stuff. If you were back testing, you wouldn't ask these questions. So doing your back testing, make sure you look at stop loss placement, where you would hypothetically place it, and then look and see if those trades work out for you. Because stop loss placement and the trust in that stop loss placement is going to have a huge impact on whether you're successful as a trader, whether you always close your trades early, whether you get shaken out of your position, those kind of things. So you really need to back test the stop loss placement and get comfortable with it. All right, first tap back into the breaker gave about 25 handles, it looks like. Maybe just over 25. We'll see if anything else comes out of it. Back, I'm just going to refill my coffee one last time. Summer session. No, Mohammed, it's not a stupid question, not at all. And again, since we know that trading's not 100% question you're asking, how do you know it's the right one? You don't necessarily know it's the right one. You just know it has a good probability, right? And all setups need to start with a trigger. So it can't just be uh, you see a candle impulsively move like this. You see good price action where you're like, oh, okay, price is running away from me. Let me dump in. Like it can't be that type of trigger to get you going. So you got to figure out what triggers a trade. And if you're looking for a breaker, what triggers a breaker, at least in my book, what I look for, I try to look for something on a higher time frame, an hour or above, that says price should want to do something here. And so that's when I start scouting for price to do something in that area. And I mostly use hourly fair value gap. Sometimes I'll use an order block, but for the most part, it's a fair value gap. But also, you want to use session highs and lows. So one thing we had this morning in that area was, where were we? I think we were here. So this was yesterday's session high. I believe I had it marked up here, previous day high. So you have on a daily level, the high. And we had that triggered and traded above this morning, 7 o'clock hour to 8 o'clock hour. And then here's the 9 o'clock hour into the opening bell. So we had that happen. So there was at least a trigger to think, okay, maybe something will happen here. Change this. Just make this red. Right. So the whole time, even though I had marked up a bullish breaker, because a bullish breaker was created right here for price to continue higher. So I had this marked up. But the red line that we're looking at is a previous day high. And so there's a trigger that something may want to happen here. And so if you were bearish and you had any type of targets or liquidity targets that you were looking for on the bearish side to the, something below us, this would have been an area where you've been looking for something to turn, for a price to turn around. And so then we have here at the opening bell at 9:30, we saw price trade higher. We saw it fail to continue higher, and the subsequent candles started to trade lower. And so in that case, that's when you start looking for your breaker. And now we have a 1-minute bearish breaker. I just showed you where I had a 5-minute bullish breaker. And so it just depends on if you're on sides and you're saying, how do you know which one is the right one? Well, it's going to be based on how you're reading price at the time, how you see the liquidity targets, and which one price you want to move to, plus dancing in between where the news is going to be announced. We had news at 8:30, 9:45, and at 10. We had an opening bell at 9:30. So we had 4 different events that could send price impulsively in a particular direction. So that's what you would have wanted to pay attention to. And clearly this previous day high being a liquidity point and having it trade above, but then price not really leaving that area, just kind of paved the way for bearish activity to come in. So that's my take on it. There may be some other subscribers who have a little something to add or even something to go against what I just mentioned. But yeah, that's my take on it. But if you're just looking for breakers all day long, I promise you'll find a breaker every half hour or an hour. You'll always find one on some time frame. So really what needs to happen is you need to have a story to tell about why price wants to do a certain thing. And then when you see the breaker, that's when you trust it because it supports your story. Not sure if because I would imagine that it does, but go ahead, but backtest it. Backtest it to see if it works. I would imagine it does. $90. All right, so we got about 42 handles delivered out of this breaker here. All right, so now we're 30 minutes after the news has been announced. Hopefully, price is settled. Still bullish on the dollar, heavily bearish on all three indices. Are you talking about this one, Vickers, the one at the top here, up around 19,985? It's this cluster of candles right here. So it's from 923 down to 925. Down close candles there. Okay, so yep, 923 to 926. Confirmed on this down close candle here at 938. 938 was confirmation. It depends on your stop loss placement, because it depends on how you place your stop loss as to whether it hit the stop loss or not. You're asking, did it go on the other side of the breaker? It did. But this is why, in order to trade this setup successfully, you got to practice it. So you got to see how it trades, how it moves around, where the invalidation points are, where a safe stop loss should be, all of those things. Right? If you put your stop right here on the edge and you practice this enough, you'll notice that if you put your stop right on the edge, most of the time you won't survive on a 1 minute breaker. Right? So yeah, you got to practice on how to win these trades, because these are the type of setups that you're going to see, and you got to know that when you get in, you got to trust it. You got to know where to place your stop. Again, you got to know where the invalidation point is. The invalidation point is up here at 20.024 or 0.25. So how will you trade this when your entry potentially is at 9.85 and your invalidation point is at 0.25? So you're talking about 40 handles there. How will you trade this? Well, because it really depends on what your risk threshold, or how many handles are you willing to risk per trade. That's what you have to decide, and that's only you will know that. You'll know that through your trading. When you place a trade and you have a 30-point stop loss, do you get nervous? If you have a 15-point stop loss, like, where is that threshold where you feel differently about trade based on how much risk that you have on it? And based on your risk, you know where your entry point is, right? If you have this as your breaker, and you know invalidation is up here, maybe you can't take an entry at 9.85. Maybe you have to wait and hope that it retraces to 9.95, and that gives you a 10-point cushion from the itch there. So now at 9.85, if you're willing to accept 20 handles as a stop loss, now you can put your stop loss at 0.15, which is here. You can't go all the way to the high, but you can get close to it. So at least if it goes 50% into the wick here, you still survive because you're above it. Those kind of things, but you have to decide that for yourself. And that's where practicing come in. You have to go back and look at previous examples. You have to look at the charts, start identifying breakers. The better you are at identifying it, the more examples you'll have during back testing, and then you'll see how it actually trades and how you can become a winner in those trades. Right? And even on this scenario here, you got to remember that these entries came immediately following a news event. So the news was announced at 9:45, and some of these candles are right around 9:45. And then there was another news event at 10. So all of that plays a factor. Because I usually take 30 minutes after the news. But a lot of people trade immediately after the news or immediately before the news. So it's just up to you. Can't tell you if you could use a breaker, but if you find a breaker, I don't see why you can't use it, especially if it supports your story. So what is your story? Why would a breaker form this area, and where would the target be? Yeah, I would not use that as the breaker, the 1 minute breaker. Let me show it to you. All right, Mohammed. So you use these two candles here as your breaker. And it's fine in the beginning when you use this as your breaker, right? Because you traded below it here on these candles. You got below it 2, 3 times. And then you traded above to confirm, right? But then your invalidation point would have been right here. And we traded right below it and closed below it. So this breaker would have been invalidated. So I would not use that one. Now, what I would use is once this broke below and it invalidated this breaker, then you shift over and this becomes your breaker, right? Price broke below. So now you wait, you sit on your hands and you wait till price gets up here and confirms this breaker, and then you use that. All right, since we're really close to the macro, yeah, Mohammed, you probably want to wait and take your entry during the macro. So we have the 1050 to 1110 macro coming in 2 minutes. Because it's just a time period where points of liquidity or breakers tend to get confirmed or entered, and so it's just a good time for price to start moving. So when you see it stagnant like this, usually during macro, it runs for liquidity. So the liquidity targets are being moved towards during that time. So that's why it's a good time to take an entry. But again, this all goes back to take my explanation, and then during your back testing sessions, go and test the theory out, look at those time periods, and see if that's when things happen. You can even look at our previous macro. We saw a big move down, right? This was a macro period here, 950 to 1010. So during this period, you see you got your high. Oops, sorry. You got your high here, and then what? The low is at 1011. So you see the last 20-minute period, you got the entire move. You got your entry into the breaker, you got your breakdown, and you got your conclusion about a minute after. Oops. Because you can look for the Asia high and low. Yep, you can do that. Mm, yeah. Well, there's if you want to catch a reversal, you're gonna have to catch it on a candle that's down closing, so you at least get a favorable entry where you can get into positive territory pretty quickly. If you take an entry after an up close candle, you're just asking for it to retrace on you and put you, you draw down immediately. So I'm not sure where you took entries exactly, but just looking at price action, it's my take on it. But you're right, bullish, going bullish again right now. Hasn't really confirmed that yet. But we just might get some relief here soon. Show you. All right, we take a quick peek. We look at the dollar here. We see the dollar push much higher this hour, but we see a big rejection coming here towards the close. And we see something similar happening on the indices where they all push lower towards liquidity targets, and now we see rejections coming. So there may be some relief in sight, but again, confirmations just haven't come in yet. So let's give it some more time. It's inside the macro, this 1 minute breaker. We had 1, 2 entries, 3 entries in here. 5 minute never got invalidated, so it's still there as well. I'll be right back. Yeah, Ladarius, sometimes you do get both of those. You get a bullish and a bearish one together. In this case, what we're looking at earlier, the bullish was on a 5 minute. It was there first, so that's what sent price higher. That was this wing right here. The bullish breaker sent that up. But then it ended up basically becoming a turtle soup there where it was sent up to create a session high. Price was going to go target some liquidity below. And that's what ended up happening. Now, I didn't catch it either, Darius, so don't feel bad there. So it's not always a situation where you'll catch it. The problem comes when you get down here, then you get eager to jump into a setup and it chops you up. So in that case, yeah, it's one of those situations where if you give it a try and it doesn't really work for you and price looks like it's consolidating like we saw here, then you just want to be more patient, wait for your setup. It looks like for this specific case, it would have been better to just wait for the macro. And that's probably a good idea anyway, when you're unsure about what price is doing or where it's going. And it's like half past the hour or somewhere in between, just wait for the macro and see if things become more clear. Right here, these are actually, these macros are from yesterday. So let's see, last night at about 11 o'clock or so. That's where the 5 minute came from. And the 1 minute, I know that was like yesterday afternoon. So this 1 minute came at 3:15 or so yesterday. Right. And you got to remember, we're still inside of a bullish breaker, a 5 minute from yesterday. That's like 80 handles or so. I'm not dragging this across because it's the size of the screen. So it's not really worth using, but there is a 1 minute bullish breaker inside. And we traded out of it yesterday at 3:30, and here we are once again. All right, there's 40 handles out of 1 minute breaker. If anyone took that setup, see, traded right in here, 1052. So during the macro, we had 2 opportunities to trade inside of it. Actually, when the macro started, we were already inside. It traded through, closed at consequent encroachment. Macro started right at consequent encroachment. You could hit the button at that moment. Got in at 864. But if you didn't, you still had 3, 4 more candles opportunity to get in all the way until 1054. Nasdaq, we do not have another bullish fair value gap until we get around 825-ish, 820. So if we lose the level, we got a good 30-40 handles below 824. Right, that concludes our macro. He's cursing a lot. Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely not for the weak at heart. If you are sensitive to speech, yeah, ICT is not your mentor. See if there's going to be another bullish push out of here. I dropped down time frames to see if this breaker would hold, and it showed that there was a breaker on the 5 seconds, so it did hold. Like you can see, it's clearly trading above it now. But whether it runs to some higher level, I'm not sure that's going to happen. But the fact that it pushed out of the breaker, saw that on the 5 second when I went there. It created a breaker here at the bottom. That then we had a confirmation over on this side. But we'll see how long that holds. Get back up to the 5 minute. Not currently in a position. In fact, I don't even think I'm going to take position this morning. Gonna hold out to the afternoon. Hey, Bivco, good morning. Sorry, last hour's low. Now the Dow, just in the last few seconds, has done the same. We'll see if Nasdaq follows suit. All right, there it is. Nasdaq did the same. All three indices taking out last hour's low. We still see a bullish and strong dollar. Definitely. Congrats, Queen. Queen, did you hold all the way through? Yeah, we're at about 165 handles delivered from the 1 minute bearish breaker at about 10 o'clock. So essentially from the 10 o'clock news event. Well, I'm sorry, not the 10 o'clock news event. It's 9:45. Okay, no, there was a 10. Let's clean up the screen a little bit here. Our current count for today, yesterday, and then Tuesday, and then this is Monday. So that's our weekly. And what we had on Monday when we pushed higher is we confirmed this bullish breaker. And this is on the daily. But since we confirmed it and traded higher up here, we haven't returned. So keep in mind that we need that. Well, we don't need to, but be nice if we return to the bullish breaker before going higher. And that's at 643. So we still got another 170 points or so to get down to back to the breaker towards having a entry off the daily level. So we could see price break down, and that's where it's going. Just wants to retrace back down into the breaker before continuing. Right, and up above what it's in right now is a bearish breaker on the daily. So that's coming from back in June. We created a bearish breaker on this side. So it traded up to almost the consequent encroachment almost, and now we see it breaking back down. And it never disrespected the bearish breaker along with the volume imbalance. So we haven't gotten a daily close above. This is what I wanted yesterday. The level I had marked up said I want to see it trade above and close above because I wanted to invalidate this fair value gap and this volume balance, so we don't have to worry about it anymore. But it didn't do that. It retraced back into the range and closed right near the top. And now we see today it took out yesterday's high, which was a point of liquidity, and in the news created a failure. And now it looks like we're trading towards yesterday's lows. If we get below there, obviously we have this daily fair value gap below us, starting at 737. But below that is the breaker that we haven't traded back to since we created it. So that we would like to see. And that's one reason why I'm waiting to see what price wants to do based on these two breakers. Bullish breaker below us. And there we go. I think it must have been a VPN issue. I just disconnected my VPN there. Oh, and there it is. It's refreshing much quicker now. All right. So yesterday's lunch low looks to be in sight. If you have any final questions or comments, if you can throw it in the chat, we'll end our morning session sometime soon. All right, there's yesterday's lunch low. We have lunch low from the day before that, and let's see, 717 sounds familiar. I think that's a level we passed on the way up. Yep, definitely. Oh, that's where the daily breaker is. Oh, I didn't mark up the opening range high and low today, but I think we kind of got an idea of what's happening. All right, lunch low from Tuesday. And now the only weeklies that we have is the opening range low from Monday. All right, so we have the London opening range low from Monday as well as the lunch low from Monday. So that's all we have is so we're back into the range of Monday's trading. Well, we got a sizable bullish candle, but trade back in there and probably make price a little bit more efficient there. Yep. No, I didn't see a 5-minute one for this move. I didn't. I had a bullish 5-minute this morning that the 1 minute invalidated, but I didn't. Let me look and see. You could have used the 8:30 candle as a bullish 5-minute. I'm sorry, it's a bearish 5-minute, but price never returned to it, so you would have never gotten an entry. In 25. No, I got it missed that. This 8:30 low. This 8:30 low is not tapped back into. This high was 932. This is 937. They missed it by about 5 handles. At least on the mini. All right, we're into that daily breaker now. We did trade back into it. All right, everyone, that'll do it for our morning session. I didn't see any other questions in. So I'm gonna stop the feed here, and we'll resume at 1300. So I'll put in an invitation instead of letting it run during lunch. I noticed that not a lot is happening and not a lot of people are hanging out during lunchtime. So I will put out another invitation for 1300 for an afternoon session, and we'll come back and do this again. Thanks everyone for this morning. Appreciate you being here, and appreciate the support on the way out. Make sure you hit the like button. And again, if you're brand new, make sure that you are subscribed so you have access to the chat. And I'll see you in about an hour and 15. All right. Take care, everyone.